Please help me." The scream ripped from Lily's throat as she burst into the parking lot. 12 years old, legs shaking, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, the black SUV rolled to a stop. The man inside smiled, patient, hungry. "Get in the car, sweetheart. Nobody's coming to save you." But Lily wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at the Hell's Angels, 7 bikers, death's head patches, the men every parent warned their children about. Lily ran straight toward them. "Please, he's going to take me! Please!" And 7 engines roared to life. The afternoon sun turned the Phoenix sky into sheets of burning copper. Lily Chen's sneakers slammed against the cracked pavement of Camelback Road, each step sending shockwaves of pain through her exhausted legs. 7 blocks. She had been running for 7 blocks. The black SUV stayed right behind her, crawling at walking speed, its engine purring like a predator, toying with wounded prey. She didn't need to look back anymore. She could feel it. She could hear the tires crunching over gravel and broken glass. "Come on, sweetheart." The voice floated from the SUV's open window. Smooth, patient, practiced. "Just get in the car. Your grandmother is worried about you." Lily's throat burned, her vision blurred at the edges. Sweat plastered her dark hair against her forehead, and her school backpack bounced violently against her spine with each desperate stride. She had heard that voice before. 3 days ago, outside Desert Ridge Middle School. The man had appeared out of nowhere, leaning against that same black SUV, smiling at her like they were old friends. "Lily Chen, right? Your grandmother sent me. She's feeling sick. Asked me to pick you up." Lily had frozen. How did he know her name? How did he know about Nai? But something felt wrong. Something in his eyes. Something in the way his smile didn't quite reach them. "I should call her first," Lily had said, pulling out her phone. The man's smile had flickered. Just for a second. "There's no need for that, sweetheart. She's waiting." But Lily called anyway, and Nai answered on the second ring perfectly fine, confused about why Lily was asking if she'd sent someone. When Lily looked up, the man was gone. The SUV had vanished. She told Mrs. Hammond, her homeroom teacher, the next morning. "Mrs. Hammond, there was this man yesterday. He knew my name. He said my grandmother sent him, but she didn't. He was waiting for me outside school." Mrs. Hammond had barely looked up from her grading. "Lily, honey, adults talk to children all the time. It doesn't mean anything sinister. You probably misunderstood." "But he knew my name. He knew where I live. Lily." Mrs. Hammond's voice turned sharp. "I have 32 students in this class. I don't have time for dramatic stories. If something actually happens, tell the principal. Otherwise, please take your seat." Lily had sat down, her face burning with shame and frustration. She told Nai everything that night. Her grandmother's face went pale. "We call police," Nai said, immediately reaching for the phone. The officer who came to their small apartment was polite but dismissive. He wrote down the details in a little notebook, nodding along, but Lily could see it in his eyes. He didn't believe her either. "Ma'am, without evidence of an actual crime, there's not much we can do," he told Nai. "No license plate, no photos, just a man who talked to your granddaughter. Could have been anyone, a neighbor, a parent of another student." "He knew her name," Nai insisted. "He knew where we live?" "That information isn't hard to find these days, ma'am. Social media school directories." The officer tucked his notebook away. "Look, just stay vigilant. Walk in groups. If he approaches again, try to get a photo or a license plate. Then we'll have something to work with." After he left, Nai held Lily close. "I walk you to school tomorrow. Every day." "Nai, you can't. You're back. The doctor said, I don't care what doctor said. But they both knew the truth. Nai worked 6 days a week at the dry cleaning shop on 7th Avenue. She left before Lily woke up and came home after dark. Her back had been getting worse for months. Walking Lily to school and back would destroy her. I'll be careful, Lily promised. I'll walk with other kids. I'll call you when I get home. For 2 days, the plan worked. Lily walked in the middle of large groups, stayed on busy streets, kept her phone in her hand at all times. Then came today. She had been 3 blocks from school when she spotted the black SUV parked on a side street. Her heart stopped. She changed direction immediately, cutting through the parking lot of a grocery store, moving fast, but trying not to run, trying not to draw attention. When she emerged on the other side, the SUV was waiting. That's when she ran. 7 blocks later, her body was giving out. Her legs felt like rubber. Each breath tore through her lungs like broken glass. And now the street was ending. A chain-link fence blocked her path surrounding some kind of abandoned construction site. To her right, a narrow alley disappeared between 2 buildings. To her left, the roar of motorcycle engines made her stumble. Lily's head snapped toward the sound. There, in the parking lot of a low brick building with barred windows, sat a row of gleaming motorcycles. Chrome and black leather everywhere. Men in vests with patches on their backs. A winged skull grinning from the center of each one. Hell's Angels. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. Those men, Lily, very dangerous. You see them, you cross the street. You understand me, you cross the street, and you don't look back. Behind her, the SUV's engine revved. The man's voice lost its patience. I'm done playing games, little girl. Get in the car. Now. Lily's feet stopped moving. Her chest heaved. The alley to her right was too narrow. He could trap her there easily. The fence ahead was too high to climb. The SUV blocked any retreat. That left only one option. She looked at the bikers again. 7 of them gathered in a loose circle, talking and laughing. One was older, maybe 60, with silver hair pulled back in a ponytail and ice-blue eyes that seemed to notice everything. Another was a woman dark-haired with tattoo sleeves covering both arms. A third was young and massive, cleaning his bike with careful precision. 10 seconds. Maybe less. Lily made her choice. Her legs carried her across the cracked pavement toward the parking lot. Every instinct her grandmother had drilled into her screamed to run the other direction. But Lily had learned something in her 12 years on Earth. Sometimes the thing that looks dangerous is safer than the thing that looks safe. The bikers noticed her approach immediately. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. The older man with the silver hair straightened, his ice-blue eyes narrowing. Lily's voice came out smaller than she wanted, choked with fear and exhaustion. Please, there's a man following me. He won't leave me alone. Please help me. The words hung in the desert air. For one terrible moment, nobody moved. Lily felt 7 pairs of eyes studying her, taking in her torn backpack strap, her sweat-soaked shirt, the raw terror written across her face. Then the older biker's gaze shifted past her to the black SUV, idling at the parking lot entrance. His expression changed. Rosa, he said quietly. Get her inside, now. The woman with the tattoo sleeves moved instantly, placing herself between Lily and the SUV. Come with me, honey. You're safe now. Lily's legs nearly buckled with relief, but Rosa caught her elbow, gently guiding her toward the building's entrance. Behind them, she heard boots on pavement, the jingle of chains, the unified movement of men forming a wall between her and the car. It's okay, Rosa murmured. We've got you. Nobody's getting through those boys. Lily glanced back one last time. The older biker was walking toward the SUV flanked by 4 others. Their posture wasn't aggressive. Not yet. But there was something in the way they moved that made Lily think of wolves approaching prey. The SUV's engine revved once, twice. Then, with a screech of tires that echoed off the surrounding buildings, it reversed sharply and disappeared down Camelback Road. "Come on," Rosa said gently, pulling open the heavy metal door. "Let's get you some water." The door closed behind them with a metallic clang that sounded to Lily's exhausted ears like the most beautiful sound in the world. She was safe, at least for now. The interior smelled like leather motor oil and something Lily couldn't quite identify. Maybe history. Maybe secrets. The main room was larger than she expected, with a long wooden bar against one wall, mismatched furniture scattered throughout, and walls covered with photographs, patches, and memorabilia from what looked like decades of brotherhood. Rosa guided her to a worn leather couch and disappeared through a doorway marked "Private." Lily sat rigidly on the edge of the cushion, her backpack clutched in her lap like a shield. Her heart was still racing, adrenaline making her hands shake. Through the front windows she could see the other bikers returning to the parking lot. They moved with casual confidence, but their eyes kept scanning the street. Watching. Protecting. Rosa returned carrying a bottle of water and a bag of chips. Behind her came a man Lily hadn't noticed before, the one with the silver hair and ice-blue eyes. Up close, he was even more imposing than she'd thought. 6'3" at least, with arms like tree trunks, and a face that looked like it had seen more than its share of trouble. But when he looked at Lily, his expression softened. "I'm Hawk," he said, settling into a chair across from her. "Victor Morrison, but everyone calls me Hawk. I run this chapter." He gestured to the woman. "You've met Rosa. She's our everything, really." "Don't let him fool you," Rosa said, handing Lily the water bottle. "I just keep these idiots from killing themselves." Lily unscrewed the cap with trembling fingers and took a long drink. The cold liquid soothed her burning throat. When she lowered the bottle, Hawk was still watching her with patient, knowing eyes. "Want to tell us what happened out there?" Lily hesitated. She'd tried telling adults before. The teacher who didn't believe her. The cop who couldn't do anything. Why would these strangers be any different? But something in Hawk's expression, something steady and serious, made her want to try one more time. "There's this man," she began. "He started following me 3 days ago. He knows my name. He knows where I live. He keeps showing up outside my school. And today he was waiting near my route home. When he saw me, he started following in his car. I ran, but he just kept following. He was so patient, like he knew I'd get tired eventually." Her voice cracked. "He told me to get in, said my grandmother sent him, but she didn't. She didn't send anyone." Rosa's expression hardened. "Did you tell anyone, parents, teachers? My grandmother called the police. They said without evidence of an actual crime, there's nothing they can do." Lily looked down at her hands. "My teacher said I was probably overreacting, that adults talk to kids all the time." Hawk and Rosa exchanged a look that Lily couldn't quite read. "What about your parents?" Rosa asked gently. "My mom died when I was 4. Car accident." Lily's voice was flat, rehearsed from years of explaining. "My dad left before I was born. It's just me and Nai now, my grandmother." "And where's your grandmother during the day?" "Working. She manages a dry cleaning shop across town. She can't walk me to school because her back is bad, and she has to be at work early and—" Lily felt tears prick her eyes. "I told her I'd be careful. I told her I'd walk with other kids. I tried to do everything right." "Hey." Rosa reached over and touched Lily's knee. "You did nothing wrong. You hear me? Nothing. That man is the problem, not you." The front door opened, and two more bikers entered, one young and massive with a shaved head, the other lean and weathered with a scar running down his left cheek. "Danny got a partial plate before the SUV took off," the big one reported. "Running it now." Hawk nodded. "Good. Jake, call Martinez at the precinct, see if he can speed things up." Lily stared at them. "Why are you helping me?" "Everyone says you're—" She trailed off, suddenly aware of how rude the unfinished sentence sounded. Hawk's laugh was surprisingly warm. "Dangerous criminals." "Yeah, I bet that's what they say." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Here's the truth, kid. We've got our own code. Things we stand for, things we won't tolerate. And men who hurt kids—" His ice blue eyes went cold. "That's at the top of our won't tolerate list. Way at the top." "Way at the top," Rosa confirmed. "You did the right thing coming to us," Hawk continued. "Took real courage. Most adults wouldn't have done what you did." Lily felt tears finally spill down her cheeks. The adrenaline was fading now, leaving exhaustion and delayed shock in its wake. "I didn't know what else to do. I just knew I couldn't let him catch me." "And you won't," Hawk's voice was firm. "Not while we're around. But we need to call your grandmother. Let her know you're safe." Lily's eyes widened. Oh no, she's going to be so worried. I should have been home an hour ago. She's probably calling everyone. She's probably— Easy! Rosa was already pulling out her phone. "What's her number, honey?" Lily recited the digits through hitching breaths. As Rosa stepped away to make the call, she watched Hawk gesture to the other bikers. They gathered near the bar, speaking in low voices. She caught fragments. "Rotation schedule. Eyes on her street. Find this piece of garbage before he finds another kid." 10 minutes later, the clubhouse door burst open with such force that Lily jumped off the couch. Her grandmother swept into the room like a force of nature. Grace Chen was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with silver-streaked black hair and a face lined by decades of hard work. But in this moment she seemed 10 feet tall, her dark eyes blazing with a mixture of relief and fury that only grandmothers can truly perfect. "Lily." She crossed the room faster than Lily thought possible, and pulled her into an embrace so tight it almost hurt. "Nai, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Shh." Grace held her at arm's length, examining her for injuries, running her hands over Lily's arms and face, like she needed to prove to herself that her granddaughter was real and whole. "You're safe. That's all that matters. You're safe." Then Grace turned to face Hawk and Rosa. Her expression was complicated, grateful, suspicious, defiant, all at once. "You're the ones who called—" "Yes, ma'am." Hawk rose from his chair, his posture respectful. "Your granddaughter came to us for help. A man was pursuing her." Grace's face went pale. "The same one, the black car." "Black SUV. Yes, ma'am. We got a partial plate. We're looking into it." "The police said—" "I know what the police said." Hawk's voice was gentle but firm. "And they're not wrong, exactly. Their hands are tied by rules and procedures." He paused. "We don't have that problem." Grace's eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" Rosa stepped forward. "It means we're going to find out who this man is and make sure he understands with absolute clarity that Lily is off limits. Permanently. Without anyone getting hurt," Hawk added, seeing Grace's expression. "We're not vigilantes, Mrs. Chen, but we can apply pressure in places the police can't. We can be visible in ways that make predators think twice." Grace looked between them, her hand tight on Lily's shoulder. Lily could feel her grandmother's pulse racing through her grip. "And what do you want in return?" The question hung in the air. Lily tensed, suddenly afraid the answer would be something terrible, something that would make this rescue come with a price her family couldn't afford. Hawk shook his head slowly. Nothing, ma'am. We don't help kids because we expect something back. We do it because it's right. Besides, Rosa added, your granddaughter showed more guts coming to us than most grown men show in a lifetime. That kind of courage deserves respect, not a price tag. Grace studied them for a long moment. Her experienced eyes searched for deception or hidden motives. Finally, she gave a single curt nod. Then I thank you. From my heart, I thank you. But Lily and I should go home now. We'll drive you, Rosa said immediately. And we'll have someone watching your street tonight, just in case this guy is stupid enough to show up. We don't need— Yes, you do. Hawk's voice left no room for argument. That man knows where you live. Until we're certain he's not a threat anymore, someone's going to be watching. It's not up for debate. Lily saw her grandmother's pride wrestling with practicality. Practicality won. Fine, Grace said, but just for a few days, until things settle down. However long it takes, Hawk corrected gently. However long it takes. As Rosa gathered her keys and the big biker Danny she'd learned headed outside to bring a truck around, Lily found herself lingering near the door. Hawk stood nearby, watching the street through the window. Mr. Morrison, Hawk is fine, kid. Hawk, she swallowed. Thank you for believing me. The old biker's expression softened. He turned to look at her directly, and Lily saw something in his ice-blue eyes that she hadn't expected. Pain. Old, deep, carefully buried pain. Always believe the kid, he said quietly. That's rule number 1. Adults lie all the time about everything. Kids hardly ever do, not about the stuff that matters. The police didn't believe me. My teacher didn't believe me. Then they weren't paying attention. Hawk crouched down slightly so he was closer to her eye level. What you did today, running to us when every instinct probably told you not to, that took more courage than you know. Most people freeze when they're scared. They wait for someone to save them. You saved yourself. Don't ever forget that. Lily felt something shift inside her chest. Something warm and fierce that felt like it might be hope. The truck's ready, Danny called from outside. Hawk straightened. Go on. Rosa will take good care of you. Lily nodded and turned toward the door. Then she stopped. Hawk, why do you do this? Really? The old biker was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough around the edges. Because somebody should. Because too many kids fall through the cracks while adults argue about procedures and paperwork. Because— He stopped, his jaw tightening. Because I couldn't protect someone once, a long time ago, and I swore I'd spend the rest of my life making up for it. Before Lily could ask what he meant, Rosa appeared at the door. Come on, honey. Let's get you home. Outside, the Phoenix evening was settling in. The sky had deepened to purple black, and stars were beginning to emerge over the distant mountains. Lily climbed into the back of Rosa's truck, with her grandmother feeling safer than she had in 3 days. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Lily noticed something that made her throat tighten. 4 motorcycles fell into formation around the truck. 2 ahead, 2 behind. Their headlights cut through the gathering darkness like guardian spirits escorting them through the streets with silent vigilance. Grace noticed, too. Her hand found Lily's and squeezed gently. Sometimes, her grandmother murmured in Mandarin, angels come in the strangest forms. Lily nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Through the truck's rear window, she could see the motorcycles following steadily, their riders alert and watchful. For the first time in 3 days, she felt like she could actually breathe. They pulled up to the small stucco house on Maple Drive 20 minutes later. The motorcycles idled at the curb as Rosa walked them to the door. "Someone will be outside all night," Rosa said. "You won't see them watching, but they'll be there. Try to get some sleep." "Thank you," Grace said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to—" "You don't have to know how." Rosa squeezed her hand. "Just lock your doors and rest. We'll handle the rest." Inside the house felt different somehow. Smaller. More fragile. Lily stood in the middle of the living room, looking at the familiar photographs on the walls, the jade Buddha on the shelf by the window, the worn couch where she and Nai watched their favorite shows. It all looked the same. But everything had changed. "Eat something," Grace said, already moving toward the kitchen. "Then bed. You have school tomorrow." "Nai, I don't think I can—" "You can and you will." Her grandmother's voice was firm. "That man wants to disrupt your life. We don't let him win by hiding. We live our lives. We stay alert, but we live." Lily wanted to argue. Wanted to say that she couldn't possibly go back to school knowing that man was still out there, still watching, still waiting. But she saw the fear in her grandmother's eyes, the desperate need to believe that normal was still possible. "Okay," Lily whispered. "Okay." She ate without tasting the food, showered without feeling the water, climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling while her mind replayed the chase over and over. The purr of the engine, the patience in his voice, the dead end rushing toward her. What if there hadn't been bikers in that parking lot? What if the street had been empty? What if a sound outside her window made her bolt upright, heart hammering? She crept to the window and carefully pulled back the curtain. There, parked across the street under the glow of a streetlight, sat a man on a motorcycle. Danny, the big one, with the shaved head. He wasn't looking at the house. He was watching the street, his posture alert but relaxed, scanning every car that passed, every shadow that moved. He was keeping watch. Actually keeping watch. Lily let the curtain fall and climbed back into bed. Her heart was still racing, but something else was there too now. Something that felt almost like safety. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in 3 days, she slept. Lily woke to the smell of her grandmother's tea and the rumble of a motorcycle engine outside. Morning light streamed through her window. She stumbled to the curtain and looked out. A different biker now. The lean one with the scar, Jake, she remembered. He sat on his bike across the street, a thermos of coffee in one hand, his eyes scanning the neighborhood with casual vigilance. "He's been there since 5, Grace said from the doorway, making Lily jump. Her grandmother's expression was complicated. "There was a different one during the night. I saw him when I got up at 3. "They really stayed all night. All night." Grace shook her head slowly. "These men your grandmother told you to avoid. They're the only ones who actually showed up." Lily turned from the window. "Nai, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring all this trouble. Stop." Grace crossed the room and took Lily's face in her weathered hands. "You did nothing wrong. That man brought trouble. You just survived it." Her eyes glistened. "Your grandfather would be so proud of you. So proud of how brave you were." "I wasn't brave. I was terrified." "That's what brave means, little one. Doing the hard thing even when you're scared." Grace kissed her forehead. "Now get ready for school. Rosa will drive you, and when school ends, she'll pick you up." "What about you? Don't you have to work?" "I called Mr. Peterson, told him family emergency. He gave me the day off." "Nai, you can't afford— I can't afford to lose you." Grace's voice cracked. "Money we can figure out. You I cannot replace." 2 hours later, Lily walked into Desert Ridge Middle School with her backpack on her shoulder and a new phone number programmed into her contacts. Rosa had driven her staying 3 car lengths behind the whole way, watching for any sign of the black SUV. At the drop-off circle, she'd pressed a card into Lily's hand. Anything happens, anything at all, you call this number. Doesn't matter if it's nothing, doesn't matter if you're being paranoid. You call, and someone will be there in 5 minutes. Understand? Lily had nodded, tucking the card into her pocket. Now walking through the school's front doors, she felt the weight of it against her leg. A lifeline. A promise. The hallway felt different today. Maybe it was her imagination, but everyone seemed to be looking at her. Whispers followed in her wake. Heard she ran to a biker gang. Like actual Hell's Angels. My mom said they're probably drug dealers. Lily kept her head down and walked faster. By lunch, 3 different students had approached her asking if the rumors were true. She gave the same answer each time. They're just helping until the police figure things out. It wasn't exactly a lie. It wasn't exactly the truth either. During 6th period, the classroom intercom crackled to life. Lily Chen, please report to the counselor's office. Lily's stomach dropped. She gathered her things and walked the familiar route to the administrative wing, her mind racing through possibilities. Had something happened? Had they caught the man? Had something happened to Nai? But when she entered the counselor's office, she found only Mrs. Hammond waiting for her, the teacher who hadn't believed her. Lily, sit down. Mrs. Hammond's smile was tight, uncomfortable. I heard about what happened yesterday. I want you to know that if you had given me more details, I would have taken your concerns more seriously. Lily stared at her. I told you a man was following me, she said slowly. I told you he knew my name. I told you he knew where I lived. What other details did you need? Mrs. Hammond's smile faltered. Well, sometimes children misinterpret adult friendliness as something more sinister. It's natural to, he chased me for 7 blocks yesterday. Lily's voice was flat. He tried to force me into his car. That's not misinterpretation. That's danger. Of course. You're absolutely right. I just want you to know that you can always come to me to the school for help. You don't need to involve outside elements. You mean the bikers? I mean anyone who isn't trained to handle these situations properly. Lily stood, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. The trained people told my grandmother to stay vigilant and call if something happened. The bikers actually did something. She met Mrs. Hammond's eyes. I think I'll stick with them. She walked out before the teacher could respond, her hands shaking with anger and something else. The realization that sometimes the adults who were supposed to protect you wouldn't, and you had to find protection somewhere else. Rosa was waiting at the pickup zone when school ended. She leaned against her truck with sunglasses on and arms crossed, looking exactly like the kind of person suburban parents warned their children about. Several mothers hurried past with their kids, shooting nervous glances over their shoulders. Rosa ignored them completely. When Lily emerged through the front doors, Rosa's stern expression softened. How was school? Weird. Lily climbed into the truck. Everyone knows. Everyone's staring. Let them stare. Rosa pulled out of the parking lot, her eyes constantly checking the mirrors. Better they stare than you end up in some predator's car. They drove in silence for several blocks. Lily watched the familiar streets pass by, trying to spot the black SUV in every shadow. Rosa, yeah. Did you find out anything about the man? Rosa was quiet for a moment. Then, Hawk got an ID on the SUV's owner. Name's Ronald Bates. 45 years old, lives over in the Northeast Heights. Has a record nothing major, mostly misdemeanors. But there's a restraining order from an ex-girlfriend. Pattern of behavior. Lily's stomach clenched. What happens now? Now. Rosa's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Now we make absolutely certain he understands you're untouchable. Some of the guys are going to pay him a visit. Have a conversation. Make things crystal clear. Won't that get them in trouble? Rosa's smile was wolfish. Depends on what you mean by trouble. We're just going to talk to him. Remind him about certain laws regarding minors. Suggest he might want to rethink his hobbies. Very civilized. Lily wasn't sure she believed the civilized part. She wasn't sure she cared. They pulled up to the house on Maple Drive. Jake was still across the street now, joined by another biker Lily didn't recognize. Both men nodded to Rosa as she parked. Inside, Grace had made enough food to feed an army. For the men outside, she explained when Lily stared at the massive quantity of dumplings and noodles covering the kitchen table. They're missing meals to watch over us. The least I can do is feed them. That evening, Lily helped her grandmother carry plates out to the bikers. Jake accepted his with a surprised grin, and the other man, who introduced himself as Mike, looked genuinely moved. "Ma'am, you didn't have to." "I wanted to." Grace pressed the plate into his hands. "You watch over my granddaughter. I take care of you. This is how it works." Back inside, Lily sat at the kitchen table doing homework while her grandmother cleaned up. The normal sounds of their evening routine, the clink of dishes, the hum of the old refrigerator, the distant rumble of motorcycles outside, created a strange kind of peace. Then Lily's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at the screen, her heart suddenly pounding. Lily. Grace noticed her frozen posture. What is it? With trembling fingers, Lily opened the message. I know where you are. I know who's watching you. They can't protect you forever. Sweet dreams, sweetheart. The phone slipped from Lily's hands and clattered to the floor. Outside, a motorcycle engine roared to life as Jake began another slow patrol of the block. But suddenly the sound that had been comforting felt very, very small, and the darkness pressing against the windows felt very, very large. Grace snatched the phone from the floor before Lily could move. Her grandmother's face went white as she read the message. Then something shifted in her expression. The fear hardened into something else. Something fierce. We call Hawk. Now. Nine, maybe it's just, now, Lily. Rosa answered on the second ring. Within 15 minutes, 3 motorcycles roared up to their small house on Maple Drive. Hawk was first through the door, followed by Danny and Jake. Show me, Hawk said. Grace handed him the phone. His ice blue eyes scanned the message, and Lily watched his jaw tighten. Danny traced this number. Already on it. Danny was typing rapidly on his own phone. Burner most likely, but I've got contacts who can dig deeper. He knows where we live. Grace said, her voice trembling despite her efforts to stay calm. He knows you're watching. How does he know? He's been watching us watch you. Hawk's voice was grim. Probably drove by a few times, saw the bikes. Doesn't take a genius. So what do we do? Lily asked. We can't stay locked inside forever. Hawk crouched down to her level, his expression serious but steady. No, you can't, and you won't have to. This message, he held up the phone. This is fear talking. He's trying to scare you because he knows we're here. Predators like control. When they lose it, they panic. They make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that get them caught. Hawk stood. Rosa, I want 2 people on the house at all times now. Rotating 4-hour shifts. Jake, get Martinez on the phone. This message is evidence. The cops might actually be able to do something with it." "And Bates?" Danny asked. Hawk's expression went cold. "Move up the timeline. We visit him tonight." Lily felt her grandmother's hand grip her shoulder. "What are you going to do to him?" "Just talk, Mrs. Chen." Hawk's voice was calm. "Just a conversation between concerned citizens." But his eyes told a different story. The bikers left 20 minutes later, leaving Jake and a woman named Maria outside. Lily tried to do her homework, but the words on the page blurred together. Every shadow outside the window made her flinch. Every car that passed made her hold her breath. At 9 o'clock, her grandmother's phone rang. Grace answered, listened for a moment, then slowly sat down on the couch. "What?" Lily rushed to her side. "What is it?" Grace lowered the phone. Her hands were shaking, but there was something new in her eyes. Something that looked almost like relief. "That was Hawk. They found Ronald Bates. And he's not going to bother you anymore." Lily wanted to ask what that meant. Wanted to know exactly what had happened in that conversation between concerned citizens. But something in her grandmother's expression told her not to push. Some things maybe were better left unknown. She slept that night without dreams. The next morning, Hawk himself was waiting outside when Lily left for school. "Thought I'd give you the escort today," he said, handing her a helmet. "If that's okay with your grandmother." Grace stood in the doorway, watching. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she gave a single nod. "Bring her back safe." "Always." Lily climbed onto the back of Hawk's motorcycle, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. She'd never been on a bike before. The engine roared to life beneath her, vibrating through her whole body. "Hold on tight," Hawk called over his shoulder. She gripped his leather vest, and they pulled away from the curb. The ride to school took only 10 minutes, but it felt like flying. The wind whipped past her face, and the city blurred around them. For those 10 minutes, Lily forgot about the black SUV, forgot about the threatening message, forgot about everything except the pure, rushing freedom of the road. When they pulled into the school parking lot, every head turned. Students stopped mid-step. Teachers stared from the sidewalk. A group of girls near the entrance actually dropped their phones. Hawk pulled to a stop near the front doors and helped Lily off the bike. "Same time this afternoon?" he asked. Lily nodded, suddenly very aware of several hundred eyes watching them. "Hey," Hawk's voice dropped low. "You've got nothing to be embarrassed about. These people didn't help you when you needed it. We did. Remember that." He revved the engine once, a sound that echoed across the entire parking lot, and roared away. Lily walked into school with her head held high. The whispers followed her all day, but they were different now. Less mocking. More curious. Even a little awed. During lunch, a girl named Megan, one of the popular kids who'd never spoken to Lily before, actually sat down at her table. "So is it true?" Megan asked, barely containing her excitement. "You're actually friends with the Hells Angels." "They're helping me," Lily said carefully. "There was a man following me. They're making sure he stops." "That is literally the coolest thing I've ever heard. Like my mom would kill me if I even talked to a biker, and you actually rode one's motorcycle to school." Lily thought about correcting her, about explaining that she hadn't sought out the bikers for fun, that she'd run to them out of pure desperation. But something stopped her. Let them think she was cool. Let them think she was brave. Maybe if she heard it enough, she'd start to believe it herself. That afternoon, Rosa picked her up instead of Hawk. "He's dealing with some things," Rosa explained as Lily climbed into the truck. "The cops finally got off their butts and opened an actual investigation. Hawk's giving a statement about what happened." "Will he get in trouble for visiting Bates?" Rosa's smile was thin. "Let's just say the visit was very carefully documented, 6 witnesses, all respectable business owners who happened to be present. Video recording of the entire conversation showing Bates admitting to following you, confessing to things he'd done to other kids, begging for forgiveness. Lily's stomach turned. Other kids? You weren't his first, honey, but thanks to you, you might be his last. They drove in silence for several blocks. Lily stared out the window, processing what Rosa had said. Other kids. He'd done this before. Followed other girls, maybe caught some of them done things that... She couldn't finish the thought. Rosa, what's going to happen to him now? With any luck, prison. Danny sent copies of everything to the police, anonymously but with enough evidence that they can't ignore it. The DA's already talking about charges. And if he doesn't go to prison... Rosa's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Then we handle it differently. But let's cross that bridge when we come to it. When they arrived at the house, Grace was standing on the front porch with a strange expression on her face. Lily, there's someone here to see you. Lily's heart dropped. Her mind immediately went to the worst possibilities. The police with bad news. A social worker asking questions. Ronald Bates somehow escaped and waiting inside. But when she walked through the door, she found Hawk sitting on the couch looking more uncomfortable than she'd ever seen him. And sitting across from him, holding a cup of her grandmother's tea with trembling hands, was a woman Lily had never seen before. She was maybe 40, with tired eyes and graying hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Lily, Hawk stood. This is Patricia Bates, Ronald's ex-wife. Lily froze in the doorway. Patricia looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes. I'm not here to defend him. Please believe that. I left him 3 years ago because... She stopped, her voice catching. Because I finally believed what my daughter was trying to tell me. Your daughter, Emma. She's 14 now. Patricia set down the teacup with shaking hands. Ronald did things to her, for years. And I didn't believe her. She told me over and over, and I thought she was just acting out, trying to get attention, trying to break up our marriage. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I was so stupid, so blind. By the time I finally listened, she'd tried to hurt herself. Twice. Lily felt like the floor was tilting beneath her feet. Why are you telling me this? Patricia wiped her eyes. Because I heard what you did. How you ran to these men for help instead of freezing. How you kept trying to tell adults what was happening even when they didn't believe you. She stood and crossed the room, stopping a few feet from Lily. I wanted you to know that you're not alone, that it wasn't your fault, and that your courage asking for help when everyone told you it was nothing that might have saved other girls from what happened to Emma. I don't feel courageous, Lily whispered. I just felt scared. That's exactly what courage is, sweetheart. Being scared and doing it anyway. Patricia stayed for another hour talking with Grace about support groups and counseling services and the long road to healing that her own family was still walking. She gave Lily her phone number. If you ever need to talk to someone who understands, call me. Day or night. Emma would want me to help if I can. After she left, Lily sat on the couch staring at the phone number written on a scrap of paper. You okay? Hawk asked quietly. I don't know. She looked up at him. Is this real? Does this actually happen to people? Men like him going after kids, and nobody believing the kids when they try to tell more than you'd ever want to know. Hawk's voice was heavy. The system's broken, Lily. Has been for a long time. Cops can't act without evidence. Schools don't want the liability. Parents don't want to believe their neighbors could be monsters. He paused. That's why we do what we do. Because somebody has to fill the gaps. But you're... She stopped herself. Criminals. Hawk almost smiled. Yeah, some of us have records, done time, made mistakes. But here's the thing about second chances. Once you get one, you spend the rest of your life trying to deserve it. Is that why you protect kids, because someone gave you a second chance? Hawk was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his vest and pulled out a worn photograph. This is Marcus. Lily looked at the picture. A boy, maybe 16, with Hawk's same ice blue eyes and a smile that seemed to light up the frame. He was my son. 16 years old, strong as an ox, smartest kid in his class. Hawk's voice caught. He was walking home from baseball practice. 3 blocks. That's all. 3 blocks from the field to our house. What happened? Man in a van. He just... Hawk stopped, took a breath. By the time they found Marcus, it was too late. 3 days. That's how long it took. 3 days while I was sitting in a prison cell for a stupid bar fight, completely useless. Lily felt tears burning her eyes. I'm so sorry. Me too, kid. Every day. Hawk tucked the photo back into his vest. After I got out, I had a choice. Let the anger eat me alive, or do something with it. I chose to do something. He met her eyes. Every kid we protect, that's Marcus's legacy. His memory keeping other kids safe. It doesn't bring him back, but it means he didn't die for nothing. Lily crossed the room and hugged him. The big biker stiffened in surprise, then slowly, carefully wrapped his arms around her. Thank you, she whispered, for telling me. Thank you for listening. When she pulled back, Hawk's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Get some rest, he said gruffly, clearing his throat. Tomorrow's a new day. The days that followed settled into a strange new routine. Every morning a different biker escorted Lily to school. Sometimes it was Rosa in her truck, sometimes Jake on his motorcycle. Once Danny showed up in a perfectly restored 1967 Chevelle that made every car enthusiast in the parking lot lose their minds. Every afternoon, someone picked her up. Every night, someone watched the house. Grace started cooking massive quantities of food, sending plates out to whoever was on duty. The bikers started bringing gifts in return flowers for Grace's garden books. They thought Lily might like a jade bracelet that made Grace cry when she opened the box. At school, the whispers transformed. Lily Chen, the quiet girl nobody noticed, became Lily Chen, the girl with the biker bodyguards. Kids who'd never spoken to her suddenly wanted to be her friend. Teachers who'd dismissed her concerns now went out of their way to ask if she was okay. It's weird, Lily told Rosa during one of their afternoon drives. Everyone's being so nice to me now. Where was this before? People are cowards, Rosa said bluntly. They like to be on the winning side. Before you were a scared kid with a problem nobody wanted to deal with. Now you're a scared kid with powerful friends. Makes all the difference. That's depressing. That's reality. The trick is finding the people who'd stand by you even if you had nothing. Those are the ones worth keeping. Like you guys, Rosa smiled. Like us? On day 12, everything changed again. Lily was in her room doing homework when she heard her grandmother cry out. She ran to the living room and found Grace standing at the window phone, pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. Nai, what's wrong? What happened? Grace lowered the phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. They arrested him. Ronald Bates. The police arrested him this morning. That's good, right? That's what we wanted. There's more. Grace sat down heavily on the couch. They found things on his computer. Pictures, videos, other children. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He's being charged with things that will put him away for decades. Lily felt dizzy. She sat down next to her grandmother, her mind struggling to process what she was hearing. So it's over! He can't hurt anyone anymore. He can't hurt you anymore. He can't! Grace's composure finally broke. She pulled Lily into her arms and sobbed years of fear and worry and guilt pouring out in heaving waves. I'm sorry, Grace kept saying. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. I'm so sorry. Nai, stop. Lily held her grandmother tighter. You did protect me. You believed me when no one else would. You called the police. You let the bikers help. You did everything right. I should have walked you to school. I should have. You have a bad back and a job that keeps us fed. You can't do everything. Lily pulled back and looked into her grandmother's tear-streaked face. And I'm okay. I'm safe. We did it together. Grace cupped Lily's face in her hands. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. They sat together on the couch for a long time, holding each other, letting the relief wash over them in waves. Later that evening, the whole club showed up at their door. Hawk, Rosa, Danny, Jake, Maria, and at least 10 others Lily had never met. They crowded into the small living room, spilling into the kitchen, their leather vests and tattoos looking wildly out of place among Grace's delicate jade figurines and Buddhist prayer flags. We heard the news, Hawk said. Thought we'd come celebrate. Rosa was carrying grocery bags. We brought dinner. Hope you like barbecue. And dessert, Danny added, holding up a cake box. Chocolate, because Danny's friend at the bakery said everyone likes chocolate. Grace stared at the crowd filling her home. For a moment, she looked completely overwhelmed. Then she started laughing. You're all crazy, she said, wiping her eyes. Every single one of you, completely crazy. That's why you love us, Rosa said, pushing past her into the kitchen. The party lasted for hours. The bikers ate everything Grace put in front of them, and then ordered pizza when the barbecue ran out. They told stories that made Lily laugh until her stomach hurt. They taught Grace phrases in English that were probably inappropriate based on how hard everyone laughed when she repeated them. At one point, Lily found herself sitting on the front porch with Hawk looking up at the Arizona stars. So this is what it feels like, she said quietly. Being safe. Yeah. Hawk took a sip of his beer. This is what it feels like. Does it last? The feeling, sometimes. Sometimes you wake up at 3 in the morning and the fear comes back for no reason. But it gets better, and you learn to trust the people around you. That helps. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, what happens now, I mean, with us? With you guys? Will you just disappear? Hawk turned to look at her. Is that what you're worried about, that we're going to walk away now that the danger's over? It's what everyone else does. We're not everyone else. Hawk's voice was firm. You're family now, Lily. That doesn't go away because the crisis passed. Rosa's already talking about taking you to your first real motorcycle rally. Danny wants to teach you to work on engines. And your grandmother, he smiled. Your grandmother has somehow become the unofficial mother of this entire chapter. Do you have any idea how long it's been since anyone cared whether we ate actual vegetables? Lily laughed. She does like feeding people. She likes taking care of people. There's a difference. Hawk finished his beer and stood. You should get some sleep. School tomorrow. Yeah. Lily rose and moved toward the door, then stopped. Hawk, yeah. Thank you. For everything. For believing me when nobody else would. For protecting us. For, she struggled to find the right words. For making me feel like I mattered. Hawk's expression softened. You do matter, Lily. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't. She went inside and found her grandmother in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher while Rosa dried the clean dishes. There you are, Grace said. I was about to send a search party. Just talking to Hawk? He's a good man. Grace said it simply like stating the sky was blue. They all are. I was wrong about them. So wrong. They surprised you. They surprised me, Grace agreed. But they also reminded me of something important. Your grandfather used to say that you can't judge a book by its cover. You have to read the pages inside. She smiled. I think I finally understand what he meant. The party wound down around midnight. One by one, the bikers said their goodbyes, roaring off into the darkness, until only Rosa was left. I'll be outside tonight, Rosa said at the door. Last official watch. After this, we transition to just checking in. Regularly. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Rosa smiled. I want to. That's what family does. After she left, Lily stood in the middle of the quiet living room. The house smelled like barbecue and chocolate cake and motorcycle leather. It smelled like safety, like home, like family. She went to bed and slept better than she had in weeks. 3 weeks later, Lily was at the Phoenix Public Library researching a history project on Route 66. The library was quiet, afternoon light filtering through the windows. She'd found a comfortable chair near the history section, her laptop open, her notes spread across the table. Normal. Everything felt so beautifully, wonderfully normal. Then she heard raised voices near the entrance. Her head snapped up. A man was arguing with the librarian at the front desk. Young guy, maybe early 20s, his movements jerky and aggressive. I told you I need to use a computer. I don't care about your waiting list. The librarian, a kind-faced woman named Mrs. Palmer, kept her voice calm. Sir, all our computers are currently occupied. If you'll just sign up, the wait is only about... I don't have time for this bureaucratic garbage. Lily watched as several patrons shifted uncomfortably. 2 mothers with small children quietly gathered their belongings. An elderly man near the magazines lowered his newspaper concern on his face. Then Lily's blood went cold. She saw the outline of something under the back of the man's shirt. A shape she recognized from Nine Eyes' warnings, from news reports, from the active shooter drills at school. A gun. Her first instinct was to freeze, to stay small and invisible, just like her grandmother had always taught her. But as she watched the young man's agitation increase, as she saw Mrs. Palmer's polite smile becoming strained, as she noticed a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, playing in the children's section, completely unaware of the danger, something shifted inside her. She thought about the choice she'd made 3 weeks ago, running toward the bikers instead of away from them, asking for help from the people everyone told her to fear. She'd found courage then. She could find it again now. Lily pulled out her phone and scrolled to Rosa's number. Rosa. She kept her voice low, turning away from the main area. I'm at the Phoenix Public Library. There's a man here who's really agitated, and I think he has a gun. I don't know if he's going to do anything, but stay on the line. Rosa's voice went instantly sharp. Are you somewhere safe? I'm in the back near the history section. He's up front at the desk. Can you get to an exit? Lily looked around. The closest exit was past the agitated man. The emergency exit was on the far side of the library, past the children's section, where that little girl was still playing with blocks. Not without passing him or going through where the kids are. Then stay put. Stay low. I'm 5 minutes away, and I'm calling the others. Rosa's voice was firm. Do not try to be a hero, Lily. You hear me? Do not engage. I hear you. Good girl. Now tell me everything you see. Lily provided details in a whisper. The man's appearance, young, disheveled, wearing a faded army jacket. His behavior pacing, now running his hands through his hair, muttering to himself. The layout of the library, the desk where Mrs. Palmer was trying to calm him, the emergency exits. How many people were present? Rosa stayed on the line, her voice a steady anchor. Then the man's voice rose to a shout. You know what? Forget it. You people are all the same, useless, all of you. He turned to leave. Lily felt relief flood through her. False alarm. Just an angry guy having a bad day. He was leaving. Everything was fine. Then the little girl in the children's section dropped a book. The loud thud made the man spin around. His hand moved to the small of his back. Time seemed to stop. Lily saw his face confused, frightened, angry. Saw his hand gripping something under his shirt. Saw the little girl looking up with wide, innocent eyes, not understanding why the angry man was staring at her. "Everyone down!" The shout came from the library entrance. Hawk, Rosa, and Danny burst through the doors, moving with the kind of coordinated precision that spoke of years working together. They weren't holding weapons, but their presence transformed the space instantly. "Hands where we can see them!" Hawk's voice was a command. "Right now!" The young man froze his hand, still on his weapon. Lily could see the calculation in his eyes. Fight or flight. Escalate or surrender. Rosa was already moving toward the children's section, putting herself between the little girl and the threat. Danny circled left, cutting off the back exit. Hawk stood center, blocking the front door. "Son?" Hawk's voice dropped to something almost conversational. "I can see you're having a bad day. Hell, we've all had bad days. But this doesn't have to get worse. Take your hand off that weapon and let's talk." "You don't understand." The young man's voice cracked. "I lost my job. My girlfriend left. I got evicted this morning. I just needed to check my email, see if anyone responded to my applications. And they won't even let me use a computer without—" "I understand." Hawk took a slow step forward. "Better than you know. I've been where you are, lower than where you are. But pulling that weapon that turns a bad day into a life sentence, or worse, don't do that to yourself." Lily watched from behind a bookshelf, her phone still connected to the call. She could hear sirens approaching. Someone must have called 911. "My daughter died." Hawk's voice was quiet now, almost gentle. "Murdered when she was 16. I spent years angry, years wanting to hurt someone, anyone, just to make the pain stop. You know what I learned?" The young man's hand trembled on the weapon. "What? Hurting people doesn't stop the pain. It just spreads it around. Creates more broken people, more angry people, more people looking for someone to blame." Hawk took another step forward. "Let me help you instead. That's what we do. We help people who've run out of options." The next few seconds stretched into eternity. Then slowly the young man's hand dropped away from his waistband. His shoulders slumped, his face crumpled. "I'm so tired," he whispered. "I'm so tired of everything being hard." Hawk closed the distance and carefully reached under the man's shirt, removing a small handgun and passing it to Danny. Then he did something that made Lily's throat tighten. He put his arm around the young man's shoulders and guided him to a chair. Sat down next to him. Started talking quietly, offering comfort to someone who'd been seconds away from tragedy. Police arrived moments later. The young man was taken into custody, but gently thanks to Hawk's intervention. Everyone gave statements. Mrs. Palmer kept saying she couldn't believe what had almost happened. The little girl's mother was crying, clutching her daughter so tight the child squirmed. Throughout it all, Rosa stayed close to Lily. "You did good," Rosa said quietly. "You saw danger. You stayed safe. You called for backup. That's exactly what you should have done." "Is he going to be okay?" "The man—" "Honestly, I don't know. He's facing charges for carrying in a public building. Probably a mental health evaluation." Rosa paused. "But Hawk gave him his number. Told him when he gets out if he needs work, or just someone to talk to call. Sometimes people just need to know someone gives a damn." Lily thought about that. About second chances. About how Hawk had seen something of himself in that desperate young man. Later, after the police had finished, and the library had closed early, Lily found Hawk standing outside looking up at the Arizona sky. "You saved everyone today," she said. "No." Hawk shook his head. "You saved everyone today. You saw the danger when no one else did. You called for help. You probably saved lives, Lily. Don't forget that." "I just did what you taught me." Hawk smiled. "Then I guess I'm a pretty good teacher." Lily thought about everything that had happened. About running to the bikers 3 weeks ago. About the fear that had gripped her for days. About the relief when Bates was arrested, and the terror when she'd seen the gun in the library. About the family she'd found in the most unexpected place. "Hawk, can I ask you something? Anything? Is this what it means to be brave? Seeing bad things happen, and doing something about it even when you're scared?" Hawk was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "That's exactly what it means. And you, Lily Chen, are one of the bravest people I've ever met." For the first time in a long time, Lily believed him. The news about the library incident spread through Phoenix like wildfire. Lily's phone buzzed constantly with messages from classmates she'd barely spoken to before. Local news stations called her grandmother's house 3 times before Grace finally unplugged the landline. A reporter from Channel 5 actually showed up at their door, camera crew in tow, asking for an interview with the brave young girl who helped prevent a tragedy. Grace sent them away with a string of Mandarin that Lily suspected wasn't entirely polite. "Vultures," her grandmother muttered, slamming the door. "They didn't care when you were being chased. Now suddenly you're interesting." But the attention wasn't all bad. 2 days after the library incident, Principal Morrison, no relation to Hawk despite the shared last name, called Lily into his office. She walked in expecting trouble, half convinced someone had complained about her biker friends. Instead, she found the principal smiling. "Lily, I wanted to personally commend you for your actions at the library. Quick thinking, staying calm under pressure, alerting the right people. You showed remarkable courage." "I just called my friends. Friends who happened to be in a position to help. That's not luck, that's judgment." Principal Morrison leaned forward. "I also wanted to apologize. I've been reviewing how your initial concerns about the man following you were handled. Mrs. Hammond's response was inadequate. She's been placed on administrative leave pending a review of her conduct." Lily stared at him. "She's in trouble because of me. She's in trouble because she failed a student in need. That's not your fault. That's hers." The principal's expression softened. "I want you to know that this school takes student safety seriously. What happened to you being dismissed, being told you were overreacting, that should never have happened. I'm implementing new protocols to ensure it doesn't happen again." Lily didn't know what to say. For weeks, she'd felt invisible, unheard. Now suddenly, everyone wanted to listen. "Thank you," she finally managed. "That means a lot. Thank you, Lily, for not giving up, for finding help even when the adults around you failed." Principal Morrison stood and extended his hand. "You're an extraordinary young woman. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She shook his hand, still feeling slightly dazed, and walked out of the office into a hallway full of students who parted for her like she was someone important. Maybe she was. That evening, Hawk called with news. "The DA wants to meet with you. About Bates." Lily's stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "They're building the case against him. The evidence we gathered, the confession, the stuff they found on his computer, it's solid. But they want testimony from his victims. That includes you." Victims. The word felt strange in her mouth. Heavy. He never actually... He stalked you. He terrorized you. He made you fear for your life. Hawk's voice was gentle, but firm. That makes you a victim, Lily. There's no shame in it. But I got away. Those other girls on his computer, they didn't get away. What I went through isn't the same. Trauma isn't a competition. What happened to you was real. Your fear was real. And your testimony could help put him away for a very long time. Hawk paused. But it's your choice. Nobody's going to force you to testify. If you're not ready, you're not ready. Lily was quiet for a long moment. She thought about Patricia Bates crying in their living room talking about her daughter Emma. She thought about the other girls whose faces she'd never seen, whose names she'd never know who'd suffered because adults didn't believe them or didn't care. When's the meeting? Tomorrow afternoon. I can go with you if you want. Yeah. Lily's voice was small, but steady. Yeah, I want that. The DA's office was downtown, in a building that seemed designed to intimidate. Lily walked through the revolving doors with Hawk on one side and Grace on the other, feeling like she was heading into battle. Assistant District Attorney Sarah Chen. No relation, she clarified with a warm smile, met them in a conference room on the 4th floor. She was younger than Lily expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes, and a handshake that meant business. Thank you for coming, Lily. I know this isn't easy. It's fine. It wasn't fine. Lily's palms were sweating, and her heart was racing, but she'd learned something about bravery over the past few weeks. Sometimes you just had to pretend until it became real. I want to walk you through what testifying would involve. The process, the timeline, what to expect in the courtroom. Sarah opened a folder on the table. Ronald Bates is being charged with multiple counts of stalking, harassment, attempted kidnapping, and possession of child exploitation material. Based on the evidence, we're confident we can secure a conviction. Then why do you need me? Because juries respond to stories, not just evidence. They need to see the human impact. They need to understand that this wasn't a victimless crime. Sarah met Lily's eyes. Your testimony would help them understand what it feels like to be hunted, to be dismissed, to have to run to strangers for protection because the people who should have helped you didn't. The bikers, Grace said quietly. You want her to talk about the bikers? I want her to tell the truth about what happened, all of it. Sarah's gaze shifted to Hawk. Including the role your organization played in protecting her and gathering evidence. Hawk's expression was unreadable. That could be complicated. It could be, or it could be powerful. Sarah leaned forward. Look, I'm not naive. I know who the Hell's Angels are. I know your reputation, but I also know what you did for this girl. And I know that story could resonate with a jury in ways that pure evidence never could. She turned back to Lily. A 12-year-old girl failed by every institution that should have protected her runs to a motorcycle club for help. And they help. They believe her when no one else would. That's not just a story about one predator. That's a story about how we fail children and who steps up when we do. Lily thought about Mrs. Hammond telling her she was overreacting. About the police officer with his little notebook explaining that there wasn't much they could do. About the fear that had consumed her for days, while everyone around her shrugged and looked the other way. I'll do it, she said. Grace squeezed her hand. Hawk nodded once, his expression proud. Good. Sarah smiled. We have a lot of work to do. The weeks that followed were intense. Lily met with Sarah 3 times a week, going over every detail of what had happened. The first time she saw Bates, the chase down Camelback Road, the terror of running to the bikers, the threatening text message. Everything. It was exhausting. Some nights she went home and cried for hours, reliving moments she'd tried to forget. Other nights, she couldn't sleep at all, the memories playing on loop behind her eyes. But she kept going. Rosa started driving her to the sessions, waiting in the parking lot with coffee and snacks. Danny showed up at school events, lurking in the back like a tattooed guardian angel. Jake brought Grace groceries twice a week, claiming he happened to be in the neighborhood, even though they all knew he lived clear across town. The club closed ranks around them, a protective wall of leather and chrome and unconditional support. One evening, about a month before the trial, Lily found herself alone in the clubhouse with Hawk. The others had gone on a run, leaving the two of them in comfortable silence. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said. "You can always ask." "The man at the library, the one with the gun, did he ever call you?" Hawk's expression shifted. "He did, actually. Called from county lockup about a week after they booked him. Name's Tyler. 23 years old, former Army, 2 tours in Afghanistan. Came home to nothing, no job, no support, no one who gave a damn. The system chewed him up and spit him out." "Is he okay?" "Getting there. I connected him with some guys I know at the VA. They're working on his case, trying to get him the benefits he earned. He's facing charges for the library thing, but his lawyer thinks they can plead it down to something manageable." "You're helping him." "After what he almost did." Hawk was quiet for a moment. 20 years ago, that could have been me. Angry, broken, looking for someone to blame. The only difference between me and Tyler is that I found the club before I did something I couldn't take back. He met Lily's eyes. "Everyone deserves a second chance, Lily. Everyone. The world would be a better place if more people believed that." Lily thought about that for a long time after she went home. The trial date arrived faster than Lily expected. She woke that morning to the smell of Grace's cooking and the weight of dread in her stomach. Her grandmother had laid out her best dress, a simple navy blue that made her look older than 12. Professional. Serious, like someone who should be believed. "You don't have to do this," Grace said for the 100th time. "We can tell them you changed your mind. No one would blame you." "I would blame me." Lily straightened her collar in the mirror. "Those other girls, the ones on his computer, they never got to tell their stories. They never got to look him in the eye and say what he did was wrong. I can do that. I have to do that." Grace's eyes glistened. "Your grandfather would be so proud of you." "I know." Lily turned and hugged her grandmother. "I'm proud of me too." The drive to the courthouse felt like traveling to another planet. Lily sat in the back of Rosa's truck, watching the familiar streets of Phoenix pass by, wondering if she'd feel different when this was over, wondering if she'd ever feel normal again. And then she saw them. 12 motorcycles arranged in perfect formation in the courthouse parking lot, chrome gleaming under the morning sun. Riders standing at attention, their colors bright against the gray concrete. Lily's throat tightened. "Surprise," Rosa said softly. Hawk led the group flanked by Danny, Jake, Maria, and 8 others Lily had come to know over the past months. They'd dressed up clean jeans, polished boots, button-down shirts under their vests, respectable and intimidating in equal measure. Hawk approached with a small bouquet of sunflowers. "Thought you might want some backup." Lily felt tears prick her eyes. "You came. All of you." "Of course we came. Your family." Sarah Chen appeared from the courthouse entrance, her expression shifting from professional calm to surprise when she saw the assembled bikers. "Ms. Chen, these are friends of Lily's. They'd like to be present in the courtroom." Sarah looked at the group, the leather, the tattoos, the hard faces, and something flickered in her eyes. Calculation, maybe, or understanding. "The courtroom is open to the public," she said finally, "but I expect appropriate behavior." "You have our word," Hawk replied. Inside the courthouse was a maze of marble and anxiety. Lily followed Sarah through security up an elevator down a long hallway that smelled like floor polish and fear. The courtroom was smaller than she'd imagined. Rows of wooden benches, a raised platform for the judge, 2 tables facing each other like opposing armies, and there at the defense table sat Ronald Bates. Lily's step faltered when she saw him. He looked different than she remembered. Smaller somehow. His orange jumpsuit hung loose on his frame, and his face had the gray, hollow look of someone who hadn't seen sunlight in months. Shackles clinked at his wrists and ankles when he moved. But his eyes were exactly the same. That patient, predatory gaze that had haunted her nightmares for weeks. He looked up as she entered. Their eyes met. And Lily saw something she hadn't expected. Fear. He was afraid of her. The realization hit like lightning. This man who had terrorized her, who had chased her through the streets, who had made her feel small and helpless and alone, he was sitting in chains facing decades in prison, and she was the one who put him there. She straightened her spine and walked past him without flinching. The bikers filed in behind her, filling an entire row at the back of the courtroom. When Bates turned and saw them 12 hard faces staring back with expressions of cold promise, what little color remained in his face drained away. He quickly looked back at the table. The trial proceeded. Other victims testified first. A woman named Jennifer, who'd been stalked by Bates 5 years ago before he escalated. A girl named Michelle, now 16, who'd been one of the faces on his computer. Their stories were heartbreaking, their courage extraordinary. Lily listened to every word, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Rosa reached forward from the row behind and squeezed her shoulder. Then, it was Lily's turn. Walking to the witness stand felt like walking through water. Everything was slow, surreal, terrifying. The bailiff swore her in. She sat down, gripping the arms of the chair to keep her hands from shaking. Sarah approached with a gentle smile. "Lily, can you tell the court what happened on April 15th of this year?" And Lily began to speak. She told them everything. The first time she saw the black SUV outside her school, the way Bates knew her name, her address, her grandmother's work schedule, how she'd reported him to Mrs. Hammond and been told she was overreacting, how the police had said there was nothing they could do without evidence. "I tried to do everything right," Lily said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "I told adults. I asked for help. I walked in groups. I was careful. But he kept coming. He kept following. He was so patient, like he knew eventually everyone would stop paying attention. And what happened on the day of the chase? He cornered me. The street dead-ended and his car blocked the only way out. He told me to get in. His voice was so calm, like we were just having a normal conversation, like I wasn't running for my life." "What did you do?" Lily took a breath. "I saw the bikers. In the parking lot of their clubhouse. Everyone my whole life had told me they were dangerous, that I should cross the street if I saw them. But I was more afraid of him than I was of them." She looked directly at the jury. "So I ran to them instead. I asked them for help. And they helped me. They believed me when no one else would. They protected me when the people who were supposed to protect me couldn't or wouldn't." The defense attorney's cross-examination was brutal. He tried to suggest Lily had exaggerated the threat, that she'd been dramatic, that her decision to seek help from known criminals showed poor judgment and undermined her credibility. "Isn't it true," he pressed, "that you ran to a motorcycle gang instead of a store, a restaurant, any legitimate business that could have helped you? Stores have customers who might not want to get involved. Businesses have employees who are trained to call the police and wait. The police already told us they couldn't help. Lily's voice didn't waver. The bikers actually did something. But they're criminals, aren't they? They have records. They've been arrested. They saved my life. Lily cut him off, her chin rising. The criminals saved my life when the trained professionals told my grandmother there was nothing they could do. The criminals believed me when the school counselor said I was overreacting. The criminals made sure I was safe when everyone else told me to wait until something bad happened. And she leaned forward, looking the attorney directly in the eyes. So no, sir. I don't think it showed poor judgment. I think it showed survival instinct. And I think if more kids knew they could run to someone, anyone who would actually help fewer of them would end up like the girls on your client's computer. The courtroom went silent. From the gallery, Lily heard Danny whisper, "Damn right." The judge shot a warning look toward the back, but there was the ghost of a smile on his face. After Lily's testimony, there was a brief recess. In the hallway, Hawk pulled her aside. "You did good in there, kid. Real good." "I was terrified." "Couldn't tell. You looked like a warrior." Grace appeared, her face wet with tears, and pulled Lily into a crushing hug. "I am so proud of you, so proud. Your grandfather is watching from heaven, and he is so proud." The verdict came 2 days later. Guilty on all counts. Ronald Bates would spend the next 25 years in prison, with lifetime registration as a sex offender to follow. The judge called it one of the most disturbing cases he'd ever presided over, and commended the extraordinary courage of the victims who testified. Lily cried when she heard the news. Not from sadness, but from relief so profound it felt physical. Grace held her on one side, Rosa on the other. Hawk made a phone call to spread the word to the rest of the club. Justice, imperfect and delayed, had finally arrived. That evening, Sarah Chen called to thank her personally. "Your testimony made a difference, Lily. The jury foreman told me afterward that you were the turning point. The moment they stopped seeing this as just another case and started seeing it as a story about real people who'd been failed by the system. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the bravest thing anyone can do." After she hung up, Lily sat on the couch, staring at the phone in her hands. She thought about everything that had led to this moment. The terror, the helplessness, the desperate choice to run toward danger instead of away from it, and the family she'd found on the other side. Grace appeared in the doorway. "The bikers want us to come to the clubhouse. They're having a celebration." "A celebration for the verdict, and—" Grace smiled mysteriously. "Something else. Hawk wouldn't say what." Lily stood, curiosity overcoming exhaustion. "Then I guess we'd better go find out." The ride to the clubhouse felt different this time. The weight that had been pressing on Lily's chest for months had finally lifted. The streets looked brighter. The air smelled cleaner. Even the rumble of Rosa's truck seemed happier somehow. When they pulled into the parking lot, Lily knew something was different. The clubhouse was decorated. Streamers hung from the awning. Balloons clustered near the entrance. A hand-painted banner stretched across the front doors, reading, "Congratulations, Lily," in bright red letters. "What is this?" Lily asked as Rosa parked. "You'll see." Inside the clubhouse had been transformed. The rough biker bar she'd grown used to was now filled with flowers, streamers, and a massive chocolate cake on the center table. Every member of the club seemed to be present, their hard faces softened by genuine smiles. "There she is," Danny called out. "The girl who brought down a monster." A cheer went up. Lily felt her face flush with embarrassment and pride. Hawk stepped forward from the crowd, his expression warm. Lily Chen, 12 years old, the bravest person any of us have ever met. He held up a hand for silence. The club took a vote this morning. Unanimous decision. Lily's heart began to race. A vote about what? Hawk reached into his vest and pulled out something small and gleaming. A patch embroidered with a phoenix rising from flame's wings spread wide. Underneath in silver thread were the words, "Protected always." For your courage in the face of danger, for your trust in this brotherhood when society told you not to trust us, for reminding every single one of us why we wear these colors. Hawk's voice was thick with emotion. Lily Chen, we're making you an honorary member of this chapter. From this day forward, you're one of us. Wherever you go, whatever you need, you have family. The room erupted in applause. Lily stared at the patch, her vision blurring with tears. She thought about everything she'd lost in the past few months, her sense of safety, her trust in adults, her belief that the world was basically fair. And everything she'd gained, a family who showed up when it mattered, who believed her when no one else would, who taught her that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. She took the patch with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Hawk smiled. Just know that you're never alone again. Whatever happens wherever life takes you, you've got a whole club of scary-looking bikers who have your back. Lily laughed through her tears and hugged him. The party lasted for hours. Grace danced with Danny to old rock songs on the jukebox. Rosa taught Lily how to play pool, which she was terrible at. Jake told increasingly outrageous stories about motorcycle rallies that made everyone laugh until their stomachs hurt. And through it all, Lily held the patch tight in her hand, feeling its weight like a promise. Later, when the party was winding down, and most of the bikers had headed home, Lily found herself outside with Hawk looking up at the Arizona stars. Thank you, she said quietly. For everything. For saving me. For believing me. For showing me that family isn't just blood. Hawk nodded slowly. Thank you, Lily, for trusting us, for giving us the chance to be better than our reputation, for reminding us why we do this. Why do you do this, really? Hawk was quiet for a moment. Because everyone deserves someone in their corner. Everyone deserves to know that if they're in trouble, someone will come, someone will care. He looked down at her. You gave us that gift, you know. Reminded us what it all means. These old fools needed that more than you'll ever understand. Grace called from the doorway. Lily, time to go home. But as Lily turned to leave, Hawk stopped her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. Hey, kid. One more thing. Yeah, that courage you found, the courage to ask for help, to tell your story, to stand up in that courtroom and speak the truth, that wasn't something we gave you. That was already inside you. We just helped you find it. Lily smiled. Maybe, but you showed me where to look. When she walked back toward her grandmother, the patch still clutched in her hand, the stars bright above her. She didn't know what the future held. Didn't know if the nightmares would ever fully stop, or if she'd ever feel completely safe again. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't alone anymore, and she never would be again. 6 months had passed since the verdict, and Lily Chen had almost forgotten what it felt like to be afraid. Almost. She was 13 now, officially a teenager with a confidence she never thought she'd possess. School had become easier. Friends had become real. The nightmares that once woke her screaming had faded to occasional shadows that disappeared with the morning light. But some wounds never fully heal. They just learn to hide. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed again. Lily was walking home from school, something she did alone. Now a small victory she'd fought hard to reclaim. The Arizona sun beat down on her shoulders, and her backpack felt heavier than usual, stuffed with textbooks for finals. She was thinking about the history test tomorrow when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her heart stuttered. She stopped walking, staring at the screen. It's probably nothing, she told herself. Probably a wrong number. Probably spam. She opened the message anyway. Did you really think it was over? Lily's blood turned to ice. Her fingers trembled as she typed a response. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Ronald says hello from prison. He has friends, little girl. Friends who don't like what you did to him. Lily broke into a run. She didn't think, didn't plan. Her feet just moved, carrying her down streets that suddenly felt dangerous, past houses that suddenly felt empty, toward the only place she knew she'd be safe. The clubhouse. She burst through the door 15 minutes later, gasping for breath, her face streaked with tears she didn't remember crying. Rosa looked up from the bar, her expression shifting instantly from relaxed to alert. Lily, what happened? What's wrong? Lily couldn't speak. She just held up her phone. Rosa took it, read the messages, and her face went pale. Hawk, she shouted, get out here now! The next hour was chaos. Bikers flooded the clubhouse, summoned by urgent calls and texts. Danny arrived first, followed by Jake, then Maria, then a dozen others. Hawk came last, his ice-blue eyes hardening to steel as he read the messages. Danny, trace this number. Jake, call Martinez at the precinct. Everyone else, I want eyes on Lily's house, her school, every route she takes. Hawk's voice was calm, but Lily could hear the fury underneath. Nobody sleeps until we know who sent this. It could be a prank, Maria suggested. Someone trying to scare her. Could be. Hawk's jaw tightened. But we treat it as real until we know otherwise. Grace arrived 30 minutes later, her face gray with fear. She'd gotten Lily's frantic call from the clubhouse and broken every speed limit to get there. My baby, she kept saying, holding Lily tight. My poor baby. I thought it was over. I thought we were safe. You are safe, Hawk said firmly. We're going to handle this, just like before. But Lily saw something in his expression that she hadn't seen before. Something that looked almost like doubt. The investigation moved fast. Danny traced the number to a burner phone purchased at a convenience store in Tucson. Security footage showed a man in a baseball cap and sunglasses making the purchase, his face carefully hidden from the cameras. Professional, Danny said grimly. This guy knew what he was doing. Martinez at the police department ran the footage through facial recognition software. No matches. Dead end. But then Jake found something else. Bates has been making calls from prison, Jake reported, spreading phone records across the clubhouse table. Lots of calls? Most to his lawyer, which is normal. But there's a number here that doesn't match any known contact. Can you trace it? Already did. Jake's face was grim. It's registered to a guy named Vincent Marino. Small-time criminal, couple of assault charges, known associate of some really bad people. Hawk studied the records, his expression darkening. Bates hired someone to intimidate her. Or worse, Rosa said quietly. The word hung in the air like poison. Lily felt the fear she thought she'd conquered come rushing back. The same helpless terror she'd felt running down Camelback Road, the black SUV purring behind her. The same certainty that no one could really protect her, that danger would always find a way through. Hey. Hawk crouched down in front of her. Look at me. When she met his eyes, hating how small her voice sounded. What if they actually try something? What if they hurt Nine-Eye? What if... They won't. Hawk's voice was absolute. "They won't, because we're going to find Vincent Marino before he finds you. And when we do, we're going to make sure he understands exactly how bad an idea this was." "How?" Hawk smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Leave that to us." 3 days later, they found him. Marino was holed up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Phoenix, apparently waiting for instructions from Bates on how to proceed. Danny had tracked him through cell phone pings, and Jake had confirmed the location through contacts in the area. "He's alone," Jake reported. "No weapons visible, but assume he's carrying." "How do we do this?" Rosa asked. "We can't just break down his door. That's assault breaking and entering. We don't break down anything." Hawk's voice was calm. "We wait. He has to leave that room eventually. When he does, we have the conversation. And if he doesn't want to talk, everyone wants to talk when they're surrounded by 15 bikers." The wait lasted 6 hours. Lily wasn't there. Hawk had forbidden it, absolutely, but Rosa called her with updates. She sat in the clubhouse with Grace watching the clock jumping at every sound. Finally, at 11:30 that night, Rosa called again. "We got him." "What happened? Is everyone okay?" "Everyone's fine. Marino came out to get ice from the machine. Walked right into us." Rosa's voice held a grim satisfaction. He was very cooperative once he understood the situation. "What did he say?" "A lot. Most of it very interesting." Rosa paused. "Hawk's on his way back now. He'll explain everything." Hawk arrived at the clubhouse an hour later, looking exhausted but triumphant. He gathered everyone in the main room. Lily, Grace, the core members of the club, and laid out what they'd learned. Bates paid Marino $5,000 to send a message. The texts were the beginning. If they didn't scare Lily into silence, Marino was supposed to escalate. Follow her, take pictures, make her feel unsafe. Hawk's jaw tightened. He was never supposed to actually hurt her, just terrorize her, make sure she knew Bates could reach her even from prison. "That's sick," Grace whispered. "That's absolutely sick. That's predators. They don't stop just because you put them in a cage." Hawk looked at Lily. "But here's the good news. Marino recorded all his conversations with Bates. He was planning to use them as insurance if anything went wrong. We have those recordings now." Lily's heart jumped. I mean Bates just added intimidating a witness and conspiracy to his charges. His 25 years just became life without parole." Hawk smiled grimly. "He's never getting out, Lily. Ever." The relief hit Lily like a physical force. She sagged against her grandmother, suddenly unable to hold herself up. It was really over. Finally, truly, completely over. But the aftermath wasn't finished yet. 3 days later, Lily received a letter. No return address, no postmark, just her name written in elegant script on expensive, cream-colored paper. Grace wanted to throw it away unopened. Hawk wanted to have it tested for fingerprints, but Lily insisted on reading it. She recognized the handwriting immediately. She'd seen it before on documents during the trial. It was from Ronald Bates. "Dear Lily, by the time you read this, you'll know that my last attempt to reach you has failed. My associate has been arrested. My recordings have been turned over to the authorities. My sentence has been extended indefinitely. You've won. I want you to know that I underestimated you. From the very beginning, I thought you were just another scared little girl who would eventually be forgotten. I thought the system would protect me like it always has. I thought no one would believe you. I was wrong. You found help where no one expected it. You told your story when everyone told you to stay quiet. You stood in that courtroom and looked at me without flinching. You destroyed me. I'm writing this not to threaten you. I have nothing left to threaten you with, but to tell you something important. You should be afraid of yourself. That courage you found, that ability to fight back, that refusal to be a victim, those things will take you places you never imagined. But they'll also make you enemies. People will fear what you're capable of. They'll try to diminish you, to put you back in your place. Don't let them. You beat me. Now go beat the rest of them. R.B. Lily read the letter 3 times. Her hands were shaking by the end, but not from fear, from something else. Something that felt like power. "Are you okay?" Grace asked anxiously. "What does it say?" Lily folded the letter carefully and put it in her pocket. "It says I won." That evening, Lily asked Hawk to take her for a ride. They drove out into the desert, away from the city lights, until the stars overhead were so bright they looked fake. Hawk pulled over at a scenic overlook, and they sat in silence for a while, watching the darkness stretch toward the horizon. "I'm not afraid of him anymore," Lily said finally. "Good. I'm not afraid of anything anymore." She paused. "Is that weird?" "No." Hawk's voice was thoughtful. "Fear is useful. It keeps us alive. But there's a difference between healthy fear and the kind that paralyzes you. What you went through that could have broken you. Instead, it made you stronger." "I don't feel strong. I feel tired." "That's what strong feels like sometimes. Exhausted, beat up, ready to collapse." Hawk turned to look at her. "But you keep going anyway. That's the definition of strength, Lily. Getting knocked down and getting back up." "How many times do I have to get back up? As many times as it takes." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Then Patricia Bates called me today. Ronald's ex-wife." "What did she want?" "To thank me. She said Emma, her daughter, is doing better, going to therapy, starting to trust people again. Patricia said watching me testify, seeing me stand up to him, helped Emma believe she could stand up too." Lily's voice caught. "She said I saved her daughter." Hawk nodded slowly. "How did that make you feel?" "I don't know. Good, I guess. But also," she struggled for the words, "it's a lot of responsibility. Being someone's inspiration. What if I mess up? What if I'm not as brave as everyone thinks I am?" "You're exactly as brave as everyone thinks you are. Braver, maybe." Hawk's ice blue eyes were serious. "But here's something nobody tells you about courage. It's not a permanent state. It's a choice you make over and over again, every single day. Some days it's easy. Some days it's the hardest thing in the world. And on the hard days, you remember why you started. You remember the people counting on you. And you remember that you've done hard things before." He smiled. "You've done very hard things, Lily Chen. Don't forget that." The ride back to the city felt different. Lighter somehow. Like something had shifted inside, Lily clicked into place. When they pulled into her driveway, Grace was waiting on the porch with Rosa. Both women had cups of tea in their hands and worried expressions on their faces that softened when they saw Lily smile. "Everything okay?" Grace asked. "Everything's okay." Lily climbed off the motorcycle and hugged her grandmother. "Everything's really okay." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Not from fear this time, from restlessness, energy. The sense that something was building inside her that needed an outlet. She got out of bed and went to her window, looking out at the quiet street. The moon was full, casting silver light across the familiar houses, the familiar sidewalks, the familiar mailboxes. Everything looked the same. But she was different. She thought about everything she'd been through in the past year. The terror, the helplessness, the slow, painful process of reclaiming her life. The family she'd found in the most unexpected place. And she thought about the future. She was 13 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. And she had a choice to make. Let what happened to her define her, or use it to become something more? The answer felt obvious. She went to her desk and opened her laptop, started a new document, stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she began to type. "My name is Lily Chen. I'm 13 years old, and this is the story of how I learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them most." The words flowed easily, pouring out of her like water from a broken dam. Everything she'd experienced, everything she'd felt, everything she'd learned, it all came rushing out onto the page. She wrote about the black SUV, about Mrs. Hammond's dismissive smile, about the police officer who said there was nothing he could do. She wrote about running toward the bikers instead of away, about the terror and the relief, and the slow, dawning realization that she'd found something precious in the last place anyone would expect. She wrote about Hawk's son, Marcus, about Patricia Bates and her daughter, Emma, about Tyler, the young man at the library who'd been seconds away from tragedy before Hawk talked him down. She wrote about what it meant to be brave when you felt like a coward, about asking for help when you'd been taught to be silent, about trusting strangers who looked like monsters and finding out they were angels in disguise. She wrote until the sun came up, until her fingers ached and her eyes burned and her heart felt lighter than it had in months. Then she saved the document and went to wake her grandmother. "Nai-Nai," she said, shaking Grace's shoulder gently. "Wake up. I need to show you something." Grace blinked awake, instantly alert. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Nothing's wrong. Something's right." Lily smiled. "I figured out what I want to do. At 6 in the morning. At 6 in the morning." Grace sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Okay, little one, show me." Lily handed her the laptop. Grace read in silence, her expression shifting from confusion to surprise to something that looked like awe. By the time she finished, tears were streaming down her face. "Lily," she whispered, "this is beautiful. I want to publish it. I want people to know what happened, not just to me, but to all the kids like me who don't know where to turn." Lily's voice was fierce. "I want them to know that help exists, that there are people who will believe them, that being scared doesn't mean being helpless. But if you publish this, everyone will know. Your classmates, your teachers, everyone." "Good." Lily lifted her chin. "I'm done hiding. I'm done being ashamed of what happened to me. That shame belongs to Ronald Bates, not to me. And if telling my story helps even one kid find the courage to ask for help, then it's worth whatever embarrassment I might feel." Grace studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled through her tears. "Your grandfather would be so proud of you." "I know." Lily smiled back. "I'm proud of me too." The story was published 2 weeks later. Lily had sent it to a local newspaper reporter who'd covered the trial, and the reporter had been so moved that she'd forwarded it to her editor with a personal recommendation. The editor had called Lily directly asking permission to run it as a feature piece. "Are you sure about this?" he'd asked. "Once it's out there, you can't take it back." "I'm sure," Lily had replied. "I've never been more sure of anything." The response was overwhelming. Emails poured in from across the country, parents thanking her for giving them words to talk to their children about safety, teachers asking permission to share her story in their classrooms, so many kids writing to say they'd been through similar things and had never known they weren't alone. And then came the letter that changed everything. It arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the story was published. Official letterhead, important-looking stamps, addressed to Lily Chen personally. Grace handed it to her with trembling hands. "Open it," she whispered. "I can't look." Lily tore open the envelope and scanned the contents. Then she read it again more slowly, making sure she understood. Then she screamed. Grace nearly had a heart attack. What? What is it, bad news? No! Lily was laughing and crying at the same time. No, nye, it's good news. It's amazing news. She handed her grandmother the letter. Grace read it aloud, her voice shaking. Dear Ms. Chen, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a recipient of the Arizona Governor's Young Hero Award. This honor is bestowed upon young people who have demonstrated exceptional courage, character, and commitment to their community. You will be recognized at a ceremony at the state capitol next month, where you will receive your award and have the opportunity to share your story with other young people across Arizona. Grace looked up, her eyes bright with tears. Lily, oh Lily. They want me to give a speech. Lily's voice was barely above a whisper. They want me to tell my story to hundreds of people. Can you do that? Lily thought about everything she'd been through, the terror, the trial, the long road to healing, and she thought about Emma Bates reading her story somewhere, finding hope in her words. Yeah, she said. I can do that. The call to Hawk went better than expected. Governor's Young Hero Award, Hawk repeated. Kid, that's incredible. Will you come to the ceremony? There was a pause. You want us there, a bunch of bikers at a fancy government event? You're my family, Lily said simply. I want my family there. Another pause, longer this time. When Hawk spoke again, his voice was rough. We'll be there. All of us. Wouldn't miss it for the world. The weeks leading up to the ceremony were a blur of preparation. Sarah Chen, the ADA, who'd prosecuted Bates, helped Lily write her speech. Rosa took her shopping for a new dress. Danny spent hours coaching her on public speaking, which was hilarious, given his gruff demeanor and tendency to mumble. Eye contact, he kept saying. You gotta make eye contact. Makes people trust you. Danny, you've literally never made eye contact with anyone in your life. That's different. I'm intimidating. You're inspiring. Grace watched it all unfold with tears in her eyes and pride in her heart. Look at you, she kept saying. Look at what you've become. Lily didn't know how to respond to that. She didn't feel like she'd become anything special. She just felt like herself, scared and brave, broken and healing, ordinary and extraordinary all at once. But maybe that was the point. Maybe being special wasn't about being perfect. Maybe it was about being real. The night before the ceremony, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through her speech in her head for the 100th time. The words were memorized. The delivery was practiced. Everything was ready. But something felt unfinished. She got up and went to her window, looking out at the street. The moon was full again, just like it had been the night she'd started writing. The night she'd decided to stop being a victim and start being a voice. Tomorrow, hundreds of people would hear her story. They'd know about the black SUV and the bikers and the trial. They'd know about her fear and her courage and her family. They'd know everything. And for some reason, that didn't scare her anymore. She smiled, turned away from the window, and went back to bed. Tomorrow was going to be a big day. She needed her sleep. The morning of the ceremony, Lily woke before dawn. She lay in bed listening to her grandmother move through the house, the familiar sounds of tea being made and breakfast being prepared. Everything felt heightened somehow. Sharper. More real. Today was the day. She got up and went to the mirror, studying her reflection. The same dark eyes. The same determined chin. But something had changed in the months since that terrifying chase down Camelback Road. The girl staring back at her looked older. stronger, like someone who had walked through fire and come out the other side. Lily. Grace appeared in the doorway. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Nervous, terrified. Lily managed a small smile. But I learned something about being terrified. It doesn't mean you can't do hard things. It just means the hard things matter. Grace crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. When did you get so wise? I had good teachers. The dress Rosa had helped her pick out was hanging in the closet, deep red, the color of courage, simple but elegant. When Lily put it on, she felt like someone else, someone important, someone worth listening to. Her phone buzzed, a text from Hawk. We're on our way, 15 bikes. Hope the governor's ready. Lily laughed despite her nerves. The ceremony was being held at the Arizona State Capitol in a grand hall that Lily had only ever seen in pictures. When Rosa's truck pulled into the parking lot, Lily's breath caught. 15 motorcycles were already there, arranged in a perfect V formation near the entrance, chrome gleaming, engines cooling, their riders standing at attention in their cleanest clothes, their cuts worn proudly over button-down shirts. And behind them a crowd had gathered. News cameras, reporters with microphones, curious onlookers who'd heard about the biker escort and come to see for themselves. Oh my God, Lily whispered. Surprise, Rosa said, grinning. Hawk approached as Lily climbed out of the truck. He was wearing a suit under his leather vest, something she'd never seen before, and his silver hair was neatly combed back. You clean up nice, Lily said. Don't get used to it. But Hawk was smiling. How you feeling, kid? Like I'm going to throw up. Good. Means you care. He offered his arm. Ready to make history? Lily took his arm. Ready as I'll ever be. They walked toward the Capitol entrance together, the entire club falling into formation behind them. Cameras clicked, reporters shouted questions. Somewhere in the crowd, a child pointed and asked their mother who the motorcycle people were. They're her family, the mother answered. They saved her life. Inside the Capitol, things moved quickly. A coordinator in a sharp blue suit rushed them to a holding room where other award recipients were waiting. There were 7 in total young people from across Arizona who'd done extraordinary things. A boy who'd rescued his neighbor from a house fire. A girl who'd raised $50,000 for cancer research. A teenager who'd started a food bank in his community. And Lily. The girl who'd run to the Hells Angels for help and lived to tell about it. The other recipients stared at the bikers with wide eyes. One boy couldn't have been older than 10, tugged on his mother's sleeve. Mom, are those real Hells Angels? Yes, Hawk answered before the mother could respond. And we're here to support our friend. That okay with you? The boy nodded vigorously, clearly impressed. Sarah Chen found Lily in the holding room. Her prosecutor's demeanor softened by genuine warmth. You're going to be amazing, she said. Just speak from the heart. That's all anyone can do. What if I freeze? What if I forget everything? Then you look at your family. Sarah gestured toward the bikers. And you remember why you're here. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock sharp. Lily watched from the wings as the governor took the stage, delivering opening remarks about courage and community and the power of young people to change the world. The audience, over 300 people, applauded politely. Then the awards began. One by one, the other recipients took the stage, received their plaques, and shared brief remarks about their experiences. Each story was moving. Each young person was brave. But the crowd's attention kept drifting toward the row of bikers sitting prominently near the front, their leather vests a stark contrast to the suits and dresses around them. Finally, the governor called Lily's name. Our final recipient today represents something truly extraordinary, a young woman who faced unimaginable terror and found help in the most unexpected place, who refused to be silenced and whose testimony helped put a dangerous predator behind bars forever, who turned her trauma into purpose by sharing her story so that other children might know they're not alone. The governor paused, looking directly at Lily. Please welcome to the stage Lily Chen. Lily's legs felt like water as she walked toward the podium. The audience applauded. The cameras flashed. Somewhere near the front, she heard Danny whistle, loud and distinctly inappropriate for a government ceremony. She reached the podium and looked out at the crowd. 300 faces stared back at her, expectant, curious, ready to hear her story. For a moment, panic seized her throat. The words she'd memorized evaporated. Her mind went completely blank. Then she looked at the front row. Hawk was there, his ice-blue eyes steady and warm. Rosa sat next to him, tears already streaming down her face. Danny, Jake, Maria. All of them, her entire family, watching her with such pride that it almost hurt to see. And beside them, Grace, her grandmother, her rock. The woman who had believed her when no one else would. Lily took a breath. My name is Lily Chen, she began, her voice stronger than she expected. And 1 year ago, I learned that monsters are real. The crowd went silent. They don't have fangs or claws. They look like normal people. Sometimes they drive black SUVs and know your name and where you live. Sometimes they smile at you outside your school and tell you your grandmother sent them. Lily gripped the podium. I was 12 years old when a man started following me. I told my teacher. She said I was overreacting. I told the police. They said there was nothing they could do without evidence. I did everything right, everything adults tell you to do when you're scared, and none of it worked. She paused, letting the words sink in. One day, he chased me. 7 blocks through the streets of Phoenix, his car crawling behind me while I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. He cornered me on a dead-end street, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that if I got in that car, no one would ever see me again. A woman in the audience gasped. Others shifted uncomfortably. But then I saw them. Lily turned and gestured toward the bikers. These men and women. The Hell's Angels. My whole life I'd been told they were dangerous, that I should cross the street if I saw them, that they were criminals and thugs and everything a good girl should avoid. She smiled. So I ran straight toward them. The audience murmured. Lily could see their confusion, their surprise. I know that sounds crazy. It felt crazy. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes the people society tells you to fear are the only ones willing to help. Sometimes the dangerous people are the ones who show up when the safe people fail you. Lily's voice grew stronger. Those bikers didn't know me. They had no reason to help. But when I ran into their parking lot crying and terrified, begging for someone to believe me, they didn't hesitate. They surrounded me, protected me, believed me when no one else would. She wiped her eyes, not caring that her mascara was probably running. They watched my house for weeks. They escorted me to school. They tracked down the man who was hunting me and gathered evidence the police couldn't. And when he was finally arrested, when I had to testify in court, they filled an entire row behind me so I would never feel alone. Lily looked directly at Hawk. They became my family, not because we share blood, but because they showed up when it mattered. They protected a scared little girl when the institutions designed to protect her couldn't or wouldn't. She turned back to the audience. I'm not standing here today to tell you that the system is broken. You already know that. I'm standing here to tell you that when the system fails, people can step up. Strangers can become family. Help can come from the most unexpected places. Lily's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but in the silent hall, every word carried. If there's a child listening to this who's scared, who's being followed or hurt or threatened, and no one believes them, I want you to know, keep asking, keep telling, keep looking for help. It exists. Sometimes it wears a badge, sometimes it wears a leather vest. But it exists, and you deserve to find it. She straightened, her final words ringing out clear and strong. My name is Lily Chen. I was hunted, dismissed, and forgotten, but I refused to give up. I found my family. I found my voice. And today, I'm using that voice to tell every child who feels alone in their fear, you are not alone. Help is out there. And your courage, the courage to keep asking, keep fighting, keep surviving, that courage will save you. She paused. It saved me. Silence. Then Hawk rose to his feet. Rosa followed. Danny, Jake. Maria, one by one. Every biker in that row stood and began to clap. The applause spread like wildfire. The entire audience rose, 300 people on their feet, their clapping thunder that shook the walls of the grand hall. Lily stood at the podium, tears streaming down her face, watching her family applaud her with pride that seemed to fill the entire room. The governor approached with the plaque, but before she handed it over, she leaned close to the microphone. I've been doing this job for 8 years, she said, her voice thick with emotion. And that is the bravest speech I have ever heard. More applause. More tears. Lily accepted the plaque and held it up, and somewhere in the crowd she heard Danny's distinctive whistle again. This time nobody shushed him. After the ceremony, the crowd swarmed around Lily like she was a celebrity. Parents wanted her to meet their children. Reporters wanted interviews. Other award recipients wanted photos with her. Through it all, the bikers formed a protective ring around her, keeping the chaos manageable. You did good, kid, Hawk murmured during a brief moment of quiet. Real good. I almost froze up there. But you didn't. That's what matters. A young girl, maybe 8 or 9, pushed through the crowd with her mother trailing behind. Her eyes were red from crying. Excuse me, she said, her voice small. Are you Lily? Lily crouched down to the girl's level. I am. What's your name? Sophie. The girl's lip trembled. There's a boy at school who keeps following me. He says mean things. He waits for me after class. I told my mom, but she says he probably just likes me. Lily felt her heart crack. Sophie, listen to me. She took the girl's hands. If someone is following you and it scares you, that's not okay. It doesn't matter if they just like you. Your feelings matter. Your fear matters. But what do I do? You keep telling. You tell your teacher, your principal, your counselor. And if they don't listen, you tell someone else. You keep telling until someone believes you. Lily squeezed her hands. And if you ever feel really scared, you call the police. Or you run to someone who looks like they'll help even if they seem scary at first. Sophie nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. Can I have a hug? Lily pulled her close, holding this child she'd never met, feeling the weight of her fear, and hoping, praying that Sophie would never have to go through what she'd gone through. Sophie's mother approached, her expression complicated. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I should have listened better. You're listening now. Lily stood. That's what matters. The reception after the ceremony was a blur of handshakes and congratulations. Grace stayed close, accepting compliments on Lily's behalf when Lily became too overwhelmed to speak. The bikers circulated through the room, looking hilariously out of place among the politicians and donors, but somehow fitting in perfectly. At one point, Lily found herself standing alone near a window, watching the Arizona sun set over the Capitol grounds. The day was ending. The chaos was dying down. Soon she'd go home back to her normal life, back to being a 13-year-old with homework and chores and all the ordinary problems of growing up. But she wouldn't be the same girl who'd left that morning. She'd never be that girl again. Deep thoughts. Lily turned to find Patricia Bates standing behind her. Ronald's ex-wife looked different from the last time they'd met, stronger somehow, with color in her cheeks and light in her eyes. "Patricia, I didn't know you were here." "I wouldn't have missed it." Patricia joined her at the window. "Emma wanted to come too, but she wasn't ready. Maybe next time." "How is she?" "Better. Really better." Patricia's voice was soft. "She read your speech online. Someone posted a transcript. She cried for an hour, but good tears, you know. She said it was the first time she felt like someone understood." Lily's throat tightened. "I'm glad. She wanted me to give you something." Patricia pulled an envelope from her purse. "She wrote you a letter. You don't have to read it now, but she wanted you to have it." Lily took the envelope, feeling its weight. "Tell her thank you, and tell her—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Tell her she's not alone either." Patricia hugged her a brief, fierce embrace and disappeared back into the crowd. The party wound down around sunset. Rosa drove Lily and Grace home the same route they'd taken that morning, but everything looked different now. The streets seemed friendlier. The houses seemed warmer. Even the light felt softer, like the whole world had shifted just slightly into a better version of itself. When they pulled into the driveway, Lily noticed something waiting on the porch. A package. No return address, no postmark. Her heart stuttered for a moment. Old fears never fully die, but Rosa was already out of the truck checking it. "It's from Hawk," Rosa said, reading a note attached to the box. "He left it this morning before the ceremony." Lily climbed the porch steps and opened the package. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a metal sculpture. A phoenix rising from flame's wings, spread wide, every feather crafted with meticulous detail. At the base, an inscription had been engraved. She rose from the ashes of everything that tried to destroy her. And she flew. For Lily from your family, Lily's vision blurred with tears. "That stubborn old man," Rosa murmured, her own eyes glistening. "He's been working on that for months, every night after the shop closed. Wouldn't let anyone see it." Grace took the sculpture gently from Lily's hands, examining it with wonder. "It's beautiful. He made this himself, every inch." Rosa smiled. "That's Hawk. Never says much, but when he wants to tell you something important, he builds it with his hands." Lily took the phoenix back and held it to her chest. All those nights she'd lain awake, wondering if she'd ever feel safe again. All those days she'd walked through school feeling like a freak, like a victim, like someone defined by the worst thing that ever happened to her. And all along, Hawk had been in his shop, crafting this message for her. This reminder that she wasn't destroyed. She was transformed. "Nai," Lily said quietly. "Can we put this in the window, where I can see it every morning?" "We can put it wherever you want, little one." Inside the house felt different than it had that morning. Fuller, somehow. Like it had absorbed all the love and pride and triumph of the day, and was radiating it back. Lily placed the phoenix on her windowsill, adjusting it until the fading sunlight caught the metal just right, making the wings glow like they were actually on fire. Then she sat on her bed and opened Emma's letter. "Dear Lily, I don't know how to start this. I've been trying to write it for weeks, but everything I say sounds wrong. So I'm just going to tell you the truth and hope that's enough. When my father did what he did to me, I thought it was my fault. I thought I must have done something to deserve it. I thought no one would believe me because he was so normal, so charming, so good at making people trust him. I was right. Nobody believed me. Not for years. But then you came along. This 12-year-old girl who saw through him immediately, who ran when I froze, who fought when I gave up, who stood in that courtroom and told the truth when I was too broken to speak. You saved me, Lily. Not just from him, he was already in prison by then, but from myself. From the voice in my head that kept saying I was worthless, that I should have done more, that what happened was my fault. Watching you reading your words, I finally understood it was never my fault. It was never any of our faults. The only person to blame is him. I'm getting better now, really better. I started therapy. I'm talking to other survivors. I'm even thinking about going back to school next year. But the thing that started it all was you. Your courage, your story, your refusal to be silent. So thank you. Thank you for being brave enough for both of us. Thank you for speaking when I couldn't. Thank you for showing me that it's possible to come out the other side of something terrible and still be whole. You're my hero, Lily Chen. You're the bravest person I've ever known. Your friend, Emma. Lily read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully, placed it in the box where she kept her most precious things, and went to find her grandmother. Grace was in the kitchen making tea, moving through the familiar ritual like it was any other evening. But when Lily entered, she looked up with eyes that said she knew this wasn't any other evening. This was the evening when everything that had happened finally made sense. Nai, yes, little one, I think I understand now why everything happened the way it did. Grace set down the teapot. Tell me. I thought for a long time that what happened to me was just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong man choosing the wrong girl, but it wasn't random. It was a test. A test to see what I was made of, to see if I would break or bend, to see if I would give up or fight. Lily's voice was steady, and I fought. I didn't know I could, but I did. And now I know what I'm capable of. Now I know that no matter what happens, I can survive it. Grace crossed the kitchen and took Lily's face in her hands. Your grandfather used to say that steel is forged in fire, that the hottest flames produce the strongest blades. She smiled through her tears. You have been through the fire, Lily, and you have emerged as the strongest blade I have ever known. I love you, Nai. I love you too, little one, more than all the stars in the sky. That night, Lily stood at her window one last time. The phoenix sculpture gleamed on the sill, catching the moonlight. Beyond it, the street stretched quiet and peaceful, the same street where she'd walked home from school a year ago, never suspecting that her life was about to change forever. She thought about everything she'd lost since then, her innocence, her sense of safety, her belief that adults would always protect her. But she thought too about everything she'd gained. A family who showed up when it mattered, a voice that people actually listened to, a courage she never knew she had, a purpose that gave meaning to her pain. She thought about Emma reading her letter, finding hope in her words. She thought about Sophie, the little girl at the ceremony, gathering the courage to keep telling until someone believed. She thought about all the children out there right now, scared and alone, wondering if anyone would ever help them. And she made a promise. Not out loud, not in words, but deep in her heart, in the place where the fire had burned hottest and the steel had formed strongest. She would keep speaking, keep fighting, keep telling her story until every child who needed to hear it found their way to her words. Because that was her purpose now. That was why she'd survived. Not just to live, but to light the way for others. Lily turned from the window and climbed into bed. Tomorrow would be another day. More homework, more chores, more ordinary teenage problems that somehow seemed so small compared to what she'd been through. But she would face it all with the same courage that had carried her this far. She closed her eyes and smiled. The nightmares didn't come anymore. The fear had lost its power. The girl who had once run for her life down Camelback Road was gone, replaced by someone stronger, braver, better. She was Lily Chen. She was a survivor. She was a phoenix. And she had risen. Far across the city, Hawk sat in his garage, putting the finishing touches on another project. A smaller phoenix this time, sized for a child's hands. He'd been commissioned by the governor's office to create 100 of them, one for every young person who completed the new safety program Lily's story had inspired. He worked in silence, shaping metal into meaning, thinking about all the kids who would hold these phoenixes, and remember that they weren't alone. His phone buzzed. A text from Danny. Lily's story just hit 1 million views online. Hawk smiled. A year ago, he'd watched a terrified 12-year-old girl run into his parking lot begging for help. He'd made a choice that day, the same choice his club had made 1,000 times before, to protect someone who needed protecting. He never imagined it would lead to this. But that was the thing about doing the right thing. You never knew how far the ripples would spread. You just had to trust that they would spread, that every act of kindness and courage and protection would multiply, reaching people you'd never meet, changing lives you'd never know about. He set down his tools and looked at the phoenix taking shape under his hands. Then he picked them up again and kept working. There were more phoenixes to make, more children to reach, and the night was still young. In her small bedroom on Maple Drive, Lily slept peacefully for the first time in over a year. No nightmares, no fears, just the deep, restful sleep of someone who had fought their battles and won. On her windowsill, the phoenix caught the moonlight and seemed to glow. And somewhere out there, in houses and apartments and shelters across the country, other children read her story and felt something flicker in their chests. Something that felt like hope. Something that felt like courage. Something that whispered, if she can survive, so can I. The monster was gone. The girl had won, and her story, the story of a 12-year-old who ran toward the thing everyone told her to fear, who found family in the most unexpected place, who turned her trauma into triumph, that story would live on forever. Because that's what phoenixes do. They rise from the ashes, they spread their wings, and they fly.